Ahoy! Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another Intel Report, the series that takes every unit in Command & Conquer Rivals out for an extravagant dinner, wines them, dines them, and really gets to know their most intimate secrets. Basically, the kind of date I really should take my wife on. If you enjoy this video or find it useful, don't forget to tip your waiter by hitting the like button and subscribing for more. Also, for the takeaway doggy bag, check out the Intel Report playlist at the end of this video for more unit analysis videos just like this one. I do love to hear your comments and your feedback, so either drop them down below in the comments section or come join us on my Discord. And you can support the channel on Patreon if you want to be absolutely awesome and help keep the gaming galleon sailing. Today we are looking at the latest addition to the GDI arsenal, the Slingshot. The Slingshot is a mobile anti-air weapons platform utilizing GDI hover technology. Advanced radar systems allow the Slingshot to track and engage airborne targets at extreme ranges, enabling effective and cost-efficient air cover for GDI ground forces. Basically, if you ever ask the question, what would happen if we gave a Wolverine a 2-hex range but locked its guns upwards, that's the Slingshot. And turns out, it's a pretty scary concept. Built from the War Factory, the Slingshot drifts into position, locks its sights on aircraft, and rinses the sky in a torrential hailstorm of white-hot tracer rounds. The terrifying rate of fire cannot be overstated and rips apart aircraft faster than a litter of angry kittens on a tapestry. Add to this that the Slingshot has a 2-hex range, meaning it can apply this firepower over an absolutely daunting 19-hex area. Anti-vehicle aircraft will struggle to approach it as they're getting shredded long before they can fire off their first shot. Though fairly slow moving, once in position, the Slingshot effectively denies enemy aircraft a significant portion of the map. The Slingshot is, however, incapable of targeting anything that isn't flying, meaning it's not a direct replacement for the Pitbull. This also leaves it utterly defenseless against any form of ground unit, whether this be infantry or vehicle. And whilst it's not the most fragile ground unit in the GDI arsenal, it's nowhere close to a Predator tank either. As such, you will need to defend your Slingshots well. They'll take care of the skies, so you'll just need to have some anti-vehicle and anti-infantry firepower hanging around. Shockwaves or snipers can work well for keeping the infantry away, and Predator tanks are great for punishing enemy ground vehicles that try to get close. But the absolute king of defending the Slingshot? The Orca Bomber. These two are like macaroni and cheese, or peanut butter and jam. That's jelly for you Americans. They complement each other near perfectly, with the Slingshot keeping any aircraft away and the Orca Bomber obliterating any ground units to dust. In fact, the only problem with this pairing is the chance to accidentally bomb your own Slingshots. So how can you deal with Slingshots if your opponent is running them in their deck? Well, let's look at the options in reverse order. Aircraft are, of course, not an ideal option at all, but it can be done. Orcas, Banshees, etc. will be shredded on their way in, but sending two can work. Laser drones are the best aircraft option for cost-effective Slingshot removal, but Inferno Blasts will take them out in one hit. Not exactly cost-efficient, but certainly effective and strangely satisfying. Of course, infantry can work well too. Grenadiers and jump jet troopers punch holes in them quickly, but even missile or laser squads do a decent amount of damage to Slingshots. Finally, vehicles, especially those that can move a little bit faster, like Scorpions and stealth tanks, are a great option for getting in quickly, punching the Slingshot out of existence, and then retreating. See, the advantage of stealth tanks is that they'll also take out an Orca Bomber if given the chance, making them probably the best unit in the game for dealing with that particular combo. Ultimately though, it depends what your opponent has managed to twin them with, but you'll need to act fast. I would always assume that the advent of a Slingshot means that an Orca Bomber is not far behind, and you will need to prepare for that and handle it quickly. Alright, so with all of that taken into consideration, you're probably eager to try the Slingshot out. What decks does it work well in? How can you dominate your opponents with this exciting new unit? Well, as usual, I've got two suggestions for you. Firstly is an early unlocked GDI 312 competitive aggro deck, suggested by Jade Zion as a variant of the competitive deck she plays, swapping the Pitbull out for the Slingshot. Now this deck is full of cheap units that are capable of quickly dealing with multiple threats. Open with barracks and use riflemen for scouting, setting up advantageous 2v1 situations against flames and shocks. Missile squads are great for dealing with early vehicles, especially cyber wheels and war dogs, and are also great against aircraft early on or in a pinch later. Grenadiers are then our ground hunting unit. Their EMP allows them to catch and pin down enemy ground units, and they're tanky enough to not get shredded instantly by anti-infantry. The helipad has drone swarms, both for stealing pads and for cutting down infantry that your riflemen struggle with. Talons provide early anti-aircraft firepower and also give you a way to deal with aircraft when you're on the back foot. If you imagine an Orca bomber or an Inferno on your doorstep, even a slingshot won't deal with it before being blown apart. Talons, however, do. Of course, in the middle of all of this, we have the slingshot for dealing with almost any aircraft to come our way. Now, this is a typical aggro deck that requires you to win both the first missiles against tech decks. Keep those pads charging to launch both missiles as quickly as possible and harass your opponent's economy. You don't necessarily need to destroy the harvester, just keep them spending to stop them saving up for the big units. Now, the second deck twins the slingshot with the Orca bomber to dominate the mid and late game. With both these units on the board, you are capable of countering anything your opponent throws at you, and your grip on the launch pads becomes vice-like and very difficult to shift. As such, your ultimate aim is to get both of these units onto the battlefield together. The deck opens with War Dogs into Harvester. Early rushes can be countered by body blocking with War Dogs, and then transitioning to counter as required. If your opponent pushes with vehicles, either as a rush or just their early units, Predators are in easy reach as you already have the War Factory open, and will dominate almost all of those matchups. It's not hard to move into the barracks for missile squads if you need faster attack speed than a Predator, or a non-vehicle option. The barracks also has shockwave troopers for dealing with enemy anti-vehicle infantry like Grenadiers or mutant marauders. Pressure the pads early and reinforce them. You'll find that you'll either need slingshots early, or later you'll have an opening to pull an Orca bomber out. Once you get one, aim to quickly build the other and get it into position. Ultimately, you'll find that the Orca bomber and slingshot pretty much cover each other's weaknesses flawlessly, but Liang's repair drone can be used to patch up any minor damage that manages to get through. As a word of advice, don't get greedy with the Orca bomber. It's very easy to overreach and end up stranded beyond the slingshot's reach. This opens the Orca bomber to air threats and opens the slingshot to ground threats at the same time. The trick is learning to utilize the two in harmony, which makes a nice segue into the final section of the Each Intel Report video. In this section, we take a look at a replay utilizing one of the suggested decks that showcases how the deck plays and highlights how the featured unit works in a kind of live fire exercise. So let's jump right in. Now, in this particular replay, on the right side of the screen, I am running the Inferno variant of the Midnight Avatar deck. I go straight into my militants as my scouting unit, then build a harvester. Jade on the other side of the map, knowing that there's plenty of time for a rush to reach her harvester, and knowing that she has the skill to deal with it, goes harvester, then into War Dogs. Those War Dogs are a problem for my poor little militants who go on a quick jog around the silo, only to get trapped between two units, at which point I may as well accept they're gone. A laser squad comes out as I know she's in the War Factory, and I'm hoping that whatever comes next I can deal with the laser squad. Unfortunately for me, it's a shockwave squad, and I pull the laser squad back at completely the wrong angle. Yes, I'm going to lose two of the squad members on that quick return. That is not a great start, not what I was hoping for, but the attack bikes quickly clear that pad of the War Dogs. I'm hoping that the attack bikes here at the bottom will then be able to deal with these War Dogs, while the cyber wheels can scout away and grab those shockwave troopers. Unfortunately, a missile squad from Jade causes some severe problems. A militant squad comes down to try and deal with those, but again, she brings her shockwaves down to melt the nice squishy militants. Now, with the Lang repair drone, even with boosted cyber wheels, that repair drone is healing them just fast enough to make it an awkward timing. In comes a Predator tank to finish off those cyber wheels, but I've got some militants on the pad, which that tank's going to take ages to deal with. Unfortunately, Jade then comes in with the shockwaves. Those melt straight through those riflemen quickly, but an Inferno blast tries to clear the pad. It's not quite enough to take out the Predator, but if that Predator doesn't move soon, or in this case get healed with a Lang drone, it will die to that fire. Jade then, having seen the Inferno around, immediately brings out a Slingshot and starts prowling with it. Now when I say prowling, I mean sort of moving it in a way that is threatening, she's trying to zone my Inferno away, keep it at a distance. As long as that Slingshot is coming towards me, I need to keep my Inferno at a safe distance. Now you see here that the Infernos do one-shot each of those Slingshots, but at 110 cost for the Inferno and 30 for the Oksana Fanaticism buff on the second one, that is not an ideal trade to take out a 50 cost unit. So I start to bring in a stealth tank. Unfortunately for me, that stealth tank hits a pad and then decides to fire its missiles at the missile squad that stops there, rather than the Slingshot. A little bit of bad micro from me spells the doom of that stealth tank, and that is 90 Tiberium down the drain for me. Here I'm hoping that I can catch, with my Inferno, that Slingshot off guard. I do manage to get the bomb off with the Inferno in full health, but the Slingshot moves out of its space. That's a problem for me. This Slingshot is denying me access to the 2 pads that I need to be getting hold of, and nothing I can do is going to quite move in fast enough. Again here, Jade very cleverly moves the tank to the south. My Inferno at the north, however, is trying to clear the pad of the 2 units down here. The Predator moves out of the blast, whilst a Slingshot is immediately built with the Inferno in its range and just kills it instantly. Second Inferno shot down there is enough to get rid of those. Again, I can't quite clear the pad, and when I'm on the pads, I'm just being shredded by that Slingshot. Here comes the Orca Bomber just to deal with any ground threats that happen to come my way. I did think a stealth tank would be a great option to get rid of those Slingshots. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to retarget onto the Borka in time. The Borka blocks the pad. That second missile goes to Jade. If only that stealth tank had taken that Orca Bomber out, I may have had a chance of holding that missile. But that Orca Bomber Slingshot combo is just oppressive.